Hello and welcome to a special edition of Planet Waves TV. My name is Eric Francis Coppolino, the astrologer for the New York Daily News, the Omega Institute, and Chronogram magazine, reporting in from Kingston, New York, here to tell you a little bit about the astrology of 2018 and why it is so distinctive and why this promises to be a very different year than last year. I did flip on the TV this morning and was watching some talking head newscasters saying about how the behavior of the federal government will make 2018 be exactly like 2017, but that is not true. And one thing to remember about 2017 is that we covered a lot of ground from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, and we're heading for another year in which we are going to cover equally as much, if not considerably more, ground. All right, making sure my video stuff is working here. All right, I'm not that good at videos, so I try to be a pro at everything, but I admit to being a complete rank amateur at video. So I've got some charts here. I like to use these super high-tech charts on painting canvas, and I want to tell you a bit about what's going on in the deep background, which is to say, in the layers behind the layers, because that's really what astrology is. Astrology is a study in the background, and what we're doing when we do astrology is we're looking at what is normally invisible and very difficult, if not impossible, to see without astrology. So let's take a look at some of these factors, and remembering that this is what you might think of as the furthest layer into the background, and then gradually we're going to bring it forward, and then in the Art of Becoming, the 2018 annual reading, I bring it so far forward that I can talk about individual decisions you might have to make, or how your relationships might shape up, or whatever. So working from the background, or the general, to the specific is the basic method that I use. And with that said, here you go. So the most important thing to know about our time in history is that we live in the time of Pluto in Capricorn. That's Pluto, and that's Capricorn. Pluto entered Capricorn the summer that Barack Obama was running against John McCain for President of the United States. That sounds like ancient history. George W. Bush and Dick Cheney were still in charge of the country, and in that very interesting summer, there was a collapse of the banking system and big insurance companies and so forth, and those were associated with the entry of Pluto into Capricorn. This thing called the Great Recession happened, and the Great Recession was you might say it was the result of certain things that look solid, only they turned out to be illusions. And this is the keynote of the time that we live in. When we think, we're afraid, we fear, we expect that everything we trust as being solid and in some way dependable, whether it's society itself or its institutions or the company that you work for, might turn out to just be not so solid after all. So we live with this constant fear of change, and of quick, unexpected change that affects everything. Remember that. Okay, point 2 of 3 is that we live in the era of this planet called Eris, new one, discovered in 2005 in Aries. Eris takes about 550 years to go around the sun one time, and it takes 130 years to go through Aries. So it goes through Aries, the slowest of all the signs. Eris is currently the most distant, coldest planet. It's about the same size as Pluto. It's orbiting our sun, and it's a very important discovery for our time in history because it describes what has happened to us as we have become completely swallowed by the age of electrical communication. We've been projecting our bodies and our consciousness out over the airwaves and the internet and television, and getting our information from radio, television, and the internet since Eris entered Aries in 1927. A long time ago. So that's a special, lengthy era of history. Uranus in Aries. And what it has done is it has changed our concept of what it means to be a person. Now, it's hard to see this because we live in this environment, and it's in the background, and fashions move so fast, and the way people think about their lives seems to change very often. But there was a major watershed moment, a moment where everything changed in the late 1920s when Uranus entered Aries, where it remains today. The third major factor is that, Eris entered Aries. Now we're going to talk about Uranus, a much faster moving planet. It goes around the solar system about once per century, about every 84 years, a little bit less than once per century. And over the past 7 years, Uranus, that's this one, has been crossing the sign Aries. We knew that Uranus got into Aries when the Fukushima incident happened in 2011. So there was a major event marking Uranus in Aries, and we once again encountered this whole disturbing dimension of change. And Uranus has been in a conjunction with Eris for the past 2 years. It took a long time to form. It will take a long time to unform, but there was a peak in 2016 and 2017, and we're still living with the effects of that peak. Now, eras in history where there are big things happening, like the 1960s, for example, often have to go with them a major conjunction. Our era is very distinct. This is a very strange time to be alive. The rules are all changing. Most of the rules no longer hold. We can only hope that people choose to be friendly to one another. But under the influence of the Uranus-Eris conjunction, it would seem that we've completely lost our way. We've become spaced out on the internet. And our lives, in many ways, are lived in this digital dream of the internet. All right, so that's the deep background. Now let's take a look, in the time remaining, at what changes now. And so you'll recognize some of these points. There's Pluto in Capricorn again. On December 19th, Saturn joined Pluto in the sign Capricorn. These two planets are building to a conjunction that will be exact in 2020. So everything we see now is basically a setup for what will happen in 2020, a presidential election year that's only about 3 years out. And, I think we've all had enough of things being really, really weird. But as the Grateful Dead said, things are going to get stranger, so let's get on with the show. So Saturn in Capricorn. What Saturn in Capricorn is about is learning how to adapt to all of this change, learning how to adapt to the feeling of being in a world where we don't know if anything is solid. All right, second big change of 2018, Chiron is going to enter Aries. For the last about 8 years, Chiron has been in Pisces. Chiron is also a relatively new discovery, discovered orbiting our sun in 1977, so that was a little over 40 years ago. And Chiron, it really brought astrology into the modern world as potentially healing art. Up until then, astrology was kind of esoteric. It was like a thing for like the priests and Freemasons to practice. Then in the 1970s and 1960s, it became a kind of a pop art, and a lot of books came out. And in the late 1970s, there was a planetary discovery that represented wholeness, or said another way, the holistic principle, and that is Chiron. And so if we've been living through these years of the Uranus-Eris conjunction, fragmenting our awareness, shattering our minds, making us feel like we are divided against each other and divided amongst each other, Chiron's presence in Aries is going to be an important step toward wholeness. So remember that. Third step, third major event, Uranus changing signs into Taurus. So we're living in this time of disembodied reality, and Taurus is one of the most embodied signs. In many ways, it is the sign that most, let's say, distinctly represents the body, because Taurus represents possessions, and your body is your most important possession. And so Uranus entering Taurus, I think, is going to remind us that we are in bodies and that we have bodies. It may seem really strange, but if you tune into the idea that life is being lived right now as an out-of-body experience, as a kind of a digital dream where we're communicating with each other all the time, that don't, in ways that don't directly involve the body, including right now, I'm using my body to talk to you, but you're really watching a bunch of pixels stream by on the internet. Uranus in Taurus, I think, will bring a revolution in how we think about our physical body here in the internet age of disembodied communication. Second, there's going to be a lot of very interesting financial changes that happen, and that includes, I believe, over these 7 years, we will see the rise of something that not that many people understand, which is cryptocurrency. That is to say, currency that exists in the digital realm only, and is a medium of exchange not backed by a central bank. This may be a new and alien concept to you. I'm a journalist and a pretty literate guy, and I'm having a little trouble wrapping my head around exactly what this is or finding anyone who can explain it easily. But it seems like a pretty obvious connection that we will see the rise of these weird things involving value, and what do we count as being valuable, and what do we as individuals value. And this is a potentially very positive portent, because it talks about a revolution in what we think of as important and why we think of it as important. All right, that's just a short introductory video for purchasers of The Art of Becoming, the 2018 annual edition. I'll be doing separate videos on Saturn, Chiron, and Uranus. I'll be probably doing the first one of those tomorrow, and we'll get you this information. For those of you who are considering or have already purchased The Art of Becoming, just so you know, I'm a little bit behind where I normally am, and that's partly because this is my first time writing the annual edition while I'm also doing a daily horoscope for the New York Daily News. That is a lot of work. It added 31 writing projects a month to my already busy schedule. I promised The Art of Becoming for sometime in the month of January. I should still be able to do that, so please send good vibes and sign up. You can get all 12 signs or individual signs, and I'll have that to you as soon as humanly possible. Done well. That's the whole thing, is done well around here anyway. All right, my name's Eric Francis Coppolino, the astrologer for the New York Daily News, the Omega Institute for Holistic Studies Chronogram magazine, and, of course, planetwaves.net and planetwaves.fm. Thanks for tuning in, and stay in touch.